Guys, we need to lock in. The Unbeaten Author Time project is reaching a dead end over the last couple of weeks, as the only maps remaining now are absolutely despair to play. There's just so many bottom of the barrel creations that nobody's bothered to try until now when they're absolutely forced to. In this video, I'm going to show you the most degenerate maps that players have beaten and taken off the list of Unbeaten Author Times. So, with that said, let's get into it. Hard Frog here built A08, but it's 4,294 kilometers long. I don't know what that is in freedom units for you, but we are spawning so far out in space that when you try to drive, you will see that the car is completely jittering. And it is because we are so far away from the stadium that the physics kind of start to fall apart. And yet it is still drivable, and you can drive all the way down past the stadium and to the finish. Author time here is set by a plugin, but Daka was determined to see this map through, and so he decided in a heroic moment to do an 18-hour live stream where he played this map in one sitting, passing the stadium in the middle of the map at 8 hours into the run, taking a screenshot, and then continuing onwards. There's only 100 checkpoints, and so what can happen here is that, you know, the fastest strategy is to plastic bounce down the hill, but if you at any point have the wrong trajectory and you fall off, the respawn could be like 20 minutes away. Like, you could easily have a terrible go at it. But just imagine, guys, I'm falling down the hill now. Imagine 17 hours spent falling down an endless yellow hill with, for the most part, glitchy physics. And that counts for one map. There's 800 left, guys. That counts for one. All right, the next map I'm going to show you is Trash Impossible map number 5. You start, the finish is over here, there are no checkpoints, but you pass through cruise control, fragile, and no steer and engine off. So what this means is that your car becomes very hard to control. At this moment, as you pass here, you can't steer. Now, you could go for the reset block to get rid of all those effects and land down on the grass, but then what? How do you get back to the start, and why has it taken the mapper 2 hours and Jan 40 minutes? So Jan here goes out to the right on the start, clips the block here, gets the car positioned towards the finish, but now engine off, and the car runs out of fuel, you could say. So, what do? Well, it's hard to notice, but if you zoom in, the car is moving ever so slightly forwards. And this has to do with how engine off is coded in Trackmania, where although the engine is off, the car can never actually reach 0 speed. And it has to do with the fact that 0 is a very hard number to code with in maths and in games. So engine off actually just means that your engine's speed goes down to like 0.00000 and then a number. And so if we speed this up, you will start to notice that his car, while accelerating, is moving very slowly forward. And so Jan sits here for 40 minutes holding accelerate, maybe watching a show in the meantime, and then crosses the finish line. And this could have taken a lot longer, but I think Jan here intentionally resetted it over and over again until he got a start that was accurately positioned. Like here, if his car stopped, you know, a little bit closer to the finish than the mapper, he knew he would have it. So now we have a beautiful track. It even has an award on Trackmania Exchange. It's called Fall 2025-05 Meep. Now this is a remix of an official campaign map, Fall 2025-05, but the author time is 5 hours. Well, this track takes like 20 seconds when it's done normally. Why is it 5 hours? Oh, well, it's because Meep here thought this track would be improved by making it 500 laps. 500 laps of one of the most basic press-forwardy Nadeo tracks. And then, to his credit, he did validate it by hand. This is a real author time. It's not set by a plugin. But they used to have a limit to the lap counter, by the way, guys, but they removed that a couple of years ago. So Meep here could have gone further. He could have made the track like 9,000 laps, but he decided 500 was the sweet spot. So just here, I've shown you one lap, 499 to go. Without further ado, Calabot here, decided to set out on this journey that only Meep Meep has done before. And we can skip through. Here he is about halfway, still having a jolly old time, 2.5 hours in. Looks like he's figured out some pace strategies though. Curious to see how he does the water bounce 2 hours in. Because he has now beat... Oh, I don't think he's having a good time with it. He did beat the mapper by 28 minutes, so... Aha, slowing down to catch a lot of speed for the uphill. Was this a strategy? Yeah, this is the strategy he landed on, and it looks very fast, so... Credit to Calabot, sitting through the 5-hour journey. Incredible stuff. This next one, guys, is called The Trial of Ultimate Patience. Now, there's over 300,000 maps on Trackmania Exchange, and they're numbered from 1 to 300,000, right? So you can see when a map was made based on the ID, and this is ID number 26,800. It is a very old track, and it was made in 2021, but with a fake author time, with a plug-in author time. And this was at a time when patience test maps was kind of the hype. So you had these like balance on rail maps where you would drive, balance on rails, and the only way you could really fail is if you got nervous or ran out of patience. This track takes the cake for the most degenerate of those balancing maps because it is, well, the entire stadium height plus a maze. So at many points here, there are different ways you can go wrong and you'd have to backtrack. But maybe She-Win here sat through the entire grind anyways. Absolutely massive respect. I don't know how they even found the path on this to begin with, because there's just so many ways you can go. On the first floor, it might be easy, right? So, okay, there's only this many options, but skip like 2 hours in, skip 3 hours in, and look at the absolute jungle that we find ourselves in. Like, how do you know? How do you know it's to the right here, 3 hours and 30 minutes in? How do you know it's left over here? And keep in mind, right, like, if maybe She-Win falls at any points here, that's a reset. That's 3 hours wasted, so you have that element too. Final corner, the strategy to let the wheels drop, clip the corner, climb up, and freedom. Insane effort. Absolutely insane effort. This next map is somewhat of an engineering feat, as we have the track One More Jump by Mucha. And what I think he aimed to demonstrate with this map is how many jumps you can make on ground level in the Trackmania map editor. So what we're seeing here is a straight line of jumps that loops all the way around in a spiral. So you go all the way around the outside, and once you've looped around, you come back to the start, and here you get to go one layer inwards. You loop around the entire stadium, you come back, one layer inwards. And you do this for about 1 hour. Until you reach the middle checkpoint, the middle block. You jump up, and you do a couple of more jumps to complete the map. Why would you build this? I don't know, but credit to the players Shay Was Here and Zygon for beating it. Shay Was Here actually found out something really smart, which is that you can alternate layers and this way reduce a bunch of airtime. But still, you are gonna have to sit through a ridiculous amount of jumps. Here we are 23 minutes in, no more alternation. Here we are just jumping at 4x speed. 39 minutes in, we're just jumping. We can see Shay now finally approaching the ending, reaching the last checkpoint of the ground layer, jumping up with the red boost. Oh, that is going to be a respawn. Getting up to this checkpoint, aiming to the right, gets that one first try. Gets this one first try, but that looks like a turtle landing, and it is gonna have to double respawn. And after this many jumps, I'd be fried, but I think Shay's doing a good job clearing a lot of these jumps in the first try, and even the finish ring, wow. First try as well. It's a very impressive run. Guys, the next map I'm gonna show you is probably the most satisfying that has gotten beaten. It's called Password Please, and I'll tell you guys the backstory of this map. When it loads in, you'll see that the design looks an awful lot like the map we just saw, One More Jump, where it's just a long line of jumps, followed by more jumps, followed by more jumps, and the author time it's 1 hour as well. So it feels like it should be about the same thing. But then you notice the checkpoints. And the checkpoints on this map are grouped in a very peculiar way. So if I go through this set of checkpoints, I get 12 on the counter. But I don't know which ones I have gotten. So I could have gotten checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2103, checkpoint 3948, checkpoint 65, etc, etc, etc. The checkpoints are mixed to be a puzzle, and the checkpoints on the right side here will be different from the left. And so, in order to know that you have the right path without missing any checkpoints, requires a ridiculous calculation and knowing the numbers. And the mapper was kind enough to put a password on this track, so if you try to open the map in the map editor to see which checkpoints are grouped together, you don't get to see them. And so he tried to make a map that would be an unbeatable author time, not based on the merits of his driving, but based on this cheap trick of hiding the checkpoint numbers behind basically an essential, an impossible thing to brute force and guess, like here I'm gonna miss some checkpoints at the finish, and also making it too hard to calculate even if you do know the numbers. But Trackmania players don't like people telling them something is impossible, and they especially don't like someone making a smug Reddit post proclaiming victory. Nightcracker 2 months ago says, beating the unbeaten author time project. I've seen a lot of hype for the unbeaten author product recently, but notice the lack of a real villain. There have been some hard maps and some cheated impossible, but not a final boss, a true fiendishly hard map that has a legit author time. Enter computer science. Because the developers introduced checkpoint groups, you can actually encode a really difficult boolean satisfiability problem in Trackmania. Guys, we won't go into detail about the exact boolean satisfiability problems and so on in the post, but you can read it if you want. It's pretty interesting, and it basically is about cryptography and how to make something hard to find by just enough instances. And Alfie beat the author time in less than a day, and so here is Nightcracker's update post. I did not expect that today I would already have to admit defeat. Huge credit to Tego, who wrote the code to extract the checkpoint information and fed it to SAT solvers. To my surprise, at least one of them worked and spit out the answer in a reasonable amount of time. It took 10 minutes. It will only be a matter of time until someone actually drives the run. The post finishes, I could probably make the map even bigger and move the goalpost with a harder CNF problem, but I won't. I gave it my shot and I lost. Don't underestimate the Trackmania community. Super satisfying. I also respect the mapper for at least admitting defeat. He tried, it failed, the community wins in the end. Let's go back in game and check out the run from Alfie. Now, we're not gonna watch the entire thing, but what is impressive is even after knowing the path here, you probably need a system to count, right? So like 2 on the right, then 1, 2, 2 on the left, and so you have like numbers probably written down on your second monitor of where to go. Because it's easy in the start, but when you're like 40 minutes in, knowing where to go right and left becomes a real difficulty. So Tego extracted the solution, Alfie drove it here, and in the end, when he gets to the finish here, the run completes. Last couple of jumps, down to the finish road, and author medal. Oh, how satisfying. Oh, how satisfying. Now, this, guys, is the most absurd, the most ridiculous alternate Deo category that I know of. It's called Pool Hunters. You have the regular track with all the checkpoints still there, the finish and start in the same spot, and the twist is that every single water pool in the map, either part of the route or scenery, has a checkpoint. So this is a checkpoint, and that's maybe fine. But the really annoying part becomes when things like this down here is a checkpoint. How do you get out? Well, thankfully, this is a ring checkpoint, so you can actually double respawn back on ground. But this is still ridiculous. Some of these are quite easy to reach, but then you look over and you see that, okay, there are water pools in the scenery that are completely out of reach, like these ones. You'd have to get up here. You have to get up here. You have to get into this one. You have to get into that one. Like, there's just so many water pools everywhere on these maps that they are such a chore. Like, how do you get to this? How? They are such a chore to play and try to beat all the water pools. So not a lot of people go for these. Spamary, Legend, decided to do it. And you will notice in the start that he respawns a lot here for a tree bounce to get one of the more difficult pools right out of the gate. So here, after 3 minutes of respawning, he crashes the tree, bounces up to the top, and now, with this, he has to be careful that he can drop in and get one water pool. Now here, you could argue he should respawn, right? Because these are ring checkpoints. But it's actually possible to crash the pillar, get acceleration penalty, and then with that, you get the speed up boost to climb out of the water pool. So because there's a pillar in this pool, this is possible to stall the gear and boost out of the pool somehow. And now, because he did the tree bounce, he can stay up here and get one more water pool as well. Get that one, and now still, instead of respawning, he can do the same trick again. So I just want to give you a hint of it, you know? We don't need to suffer ourselves, but once we've gotten a hint of it, we can go to the next one. The next map, guys, many people thought nobody would beat. This map, User45's Yuberbug Undertaking. This track has a 1.5 hour author time, and MNS beat it with a 1:08. There are players that have spent 18 hours going for this one. And what the track is a Yuberbug trial map. If you've never seen Yuberbugs, then take a look at this. You bug slide into a wall. When you crash, the game does a miscalculation and you get a bunch of speed. And so that's one. Cool. Checkpoint 1 already in 10 seconds. Very nice. Now, the thing is that there's a checkpoint on this map that has 2 Yuberbugs back to back. So here you only need to do a regular Uber, but later into the map you need to do 2 Ubers consecutively. And that is the really hard part. So here, MNS is finally gonna get it. He lands, Yuberbug position, boom, the car violently spins out, and he lands up at the checkpoint. Now smartly, by the way, he found a strategy here which skips those 2 Yuberbugs. So he sets up for speed, he hasn't taken the checkpoint yet. He wants to collect it with a lot of speed preserved, goes all the way out here, goes through, and now the idea, instead of Yuberbugging, is to land on the plastic and bounce towards the checkpoint. But here, after 20 minutes of playing, he crashes the corner, bounces up, and just barely makes it to this platform. Absolutely insane find. Now he's on the last checkpoint, and here there's just 1 Yuberbug left. But you're still in a race against the clock because you now have about 1 hour to get an insane low-speed Yuberbug into the finish. The finish, by the way, is over here. So you have to Yuberbug from the road and fly up to the rings. And this becomes quite tense because MNS respawns for a full 40 minutes, still hasn't gotten it. And then right around here, he gets a Yuberbug. It misses the finish, but crucially, it bounces against the ring in a way that he lands up on the platform next to it. And so from here, steady, control the nerves, drop into the finish, map beaten, author time collected. This could have gone so wrong. Like, the margins for this run to work out are so slim, but it still does, and we still get this one checked off the list. So huge credit to MNS for his effort on this map. Amazing stuff. But guys, not all the maps on this list are long. Some of them are just really annoying to play. Here you have a map by Patrice Strilly, and Patrice is known to be one of the most infamous mappers in Trackmania for their creations. The track starts like this, with Riolu XD and a gray bar taking up half the screen, while there is Pokemon and cats all over your screen. And it is a super slow-mo red booster line, where you cannot see your car. Caster here managed to beat this one by 200ths. And I want you to think about that, 200ths of a second. We're gonna remove all the effects so you can see what this map is like. It is a miracle that this one is done. Because, okay, it's just press forward for about a minute in the start. Once he gets to here, has to turn a bit to dodge the ring. And then look at this. What you see in the distance flickering is, it's fish. It's fish that are spinning so ridiculously fast that when I slow it down to 0.01x speed, 100th the time of real speed, you can actually see the fish rotate. And when he crashes into this, the car gets violently pushed in any direction, depending on where the fish are at that moment. And it just so happens that in this run, Caster gets pushed up to this layer, lands the car, already extremely rare, notices where the finish is at, and reaches it 200ths to the good. If he reached this just a tiny bit later, we would have cried. We would have cried because who knows when we would have had another chance at someone getting this. There's another community that you might not know about because there's like 9 players, yet they are all very good at what they do, and they play underwater maps. Trackmania is a lot of fun on land, but the underwater community build underwater trial maps. And here we have the track Wall of Pain by Hakun, who's one of the best underwater players. So with underwater, one of the only interesting gameplay mechanics is how you make the car grip onto things. So here, by holding reverse, the back wheels are gripping onto this block, and then steering carefully, he can have the car float into the checkpoint. And now, the track is called Wall of Pain because on this track, you're balancing on a wall, driving up and down the wall, and maneuvering through the track. People have beaten this track before, but Cobrerio was the first one to beat the other time on it. So here, you should notice, if the car ever floats off the wall, there is no way to get grip again. Like, you're really at the mercy of staying in contact with the wall or you're lost. And okay, this map actually seems kind of cool with features like this, but tedious to beat, though you have to give them credit for being very creative. Like, Trackmania players can find anything and turn it into a map category. So underwater wall climbing with boosters and no steers and pipes is a category in the game. One of the maps that was said to be the final boss of the Unbeaten Autotime product was this one. E05 Endurance Snow Car Underwater, driven by one of the best underwater players, Patriam. The reason this was thought to be the final boss is because you don't have a lot of players that know underwater as well as Patriam. And then out of those, you don't have a lot of people that are willing to play E05 underwater for 60 laps in a 5-hour run. But Shaibridra, 2 months ago, decided to go for it. Snowcar underwater is always fastest backwards, and so the majority of this run will be driven backwards. He starts out by taking this ring, and then floating down to the grass. This is real speed, but let's speed it up. Once on the grass, he drives backwards and goes to the statue over here, where he climbs up, and there are 3 rings to take here. And what he managed to do is he managed to take, well, this one first, fall down, 4 times the speed. We wait for the car to hit the ground, climb back up the statue. What he managed to do here for the next 2 rings is float through the middle ring onto the statue on the other side, and then set up with speed, go backwards through the other ring with speed, so that he floats down to the road here. Now, once on the road, he can drive backwards up the hill, take this checkpoint, float back down, drive the road as intended for a little bit to get the next checkpoint, and then once over here, you have to again go down on the grass because there's an engine off block which you cannot drive over. And now at the end of this checkpoint, he crashes the wall for a speed setup to have the same speed every time, and then with a perfect uphill, keeping grip without the car floating, you can become fast enough to get through the last ring and down to the next platform. This first one fails, so he goes again, and he does fail it a couple of times, but finally, here he makes it after like 2 minutes of failing, full speed, get through the ring, and float over to the other side. And now he's passing through the same ring he took earlier, so you might wonder why would he ever start with that? And the reason is that if he had taken this ring first, there is maybe a chance he could have soft locked himself by not being able to make the last jump. So then you do this 60 times in a row, and at 4x speed, like we've talked about, it looks quite okay. At 1x speed, I mean, here You have time to stretch. You can literally go for a walk. You can... Like, what are we doing? It is just so ridiculous. I respect it. I'm disgusted, but I can't do anything but respect it. Good job, Shybridra. Thank you for your effort. And the last map of the video, guys, is a track called Reaction Tester. What the mapper did here is he put the camera facing away from the track. If we go into replay mode here, and we look at the track from above, this is how the track actually looks. You drive, respawn, then you drive, respawn, then you drive, respawn, but you cannot see where you're going. You cannot see when you're approaching the checkpoint to time your respawn. So after seeing the checkpoint text appear, or hearing the noise, you might think that's the best way to do this. But actually, it is to learn when, like, what type of time split is the best. So you know that you get checkpoint 1, for example, in 3.8 seconds or so. So when I look at my timer, I see it approach 3.8, I double respawn. Then you saw the next one was like 12.5, so I wait, I see 12.5, and I double respawn. But the thing is that even if you do this perfect, you will notice it is really hard to get the auto time. Blue Fox here, instant respawn. The next one probably gets there at 12.3. Oh, even faster, 12.2. Instant respawn. And despite doing all of these essentially perfect, it is only barely enough to beat the auto time. So this track, again, we have to wonder, are we even playing Trackmania anymore? If we're placing the camera away from the stadium and only looking at the in-game timer. I suppose we are. I suppose you might argue that all these things are part of what makes Trackmania special. If we have 5-hour underwater maps and password combinations using boolean satisfactory projection, whatever it is, like, it's all part of the crazy wacky world that is Trackmania. But right now, the world of Trackmania needs your help, guys. The Unbeaten Author Time project, 800 maps left, but it's been very stable for the last month or so. If you look at this graph, this is green are the uploaded maps per day, orange are the number of author times beaten. They follow each other very closely. And if we're only focusing on the older maps, there is a chance we might one day see every map up until 2026 beaten. So go out there, play some Unbeaten author times if you want. This website is called unbeaten.at. That's where you can see the stats. Thank you all so much for watching. Give a round of applause to the players, because what they've done in these maps is outstanding. And with that said, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye. Bye-bye for now. Take care. Let me know if you want to see more Unbeaten Author Time content, I suppose. Bye-bye. Later.